Hello, fam. Welcome to yet another episode. Now, today's episode, we're going to have a very tragic but yet loving story. And we're just going to continue from our previous episode, but our today's episode is I Have a Friend in Jesus. Now, there's a very beloved hymn that each of us have heard, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. It was written by Joseph Scriven. Now, just a brief history of how that hymn came to be was Joseph Scriven at the age of 25 fell in love with a certain girl. And so he was planning to get married to that girl. Now, a night before the wedding, the girl drowned and died, tragically drowned. And then he mourned over that girl and decided to move to Canada. And so in Canada, Joseph Scriven continued, he worked, obtained money and all that, and again he fell in love. Okay, the girl named Eliza. And after he had fallen in love with the girl named Eliza, and when they were about to get married, in winter, the girl suffered from a pneumonia and tragically lost her life. And now, at some point, Joseph Scriven, when the mother was ill, Joseph Scriven wrote a poem to the mother. He wrote a poem anonymously to the mother. And the poem was entitled, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. And that hymn has blessed so many people. But that's not what today's episode is all about. Today's episode is about the friend we have in Jesus. And so as tragic as Joseph Scriven's story was, yesterday we learned of a person who was bedridden for 38 years. But now, so Christ had healed this man. And so this man was walking with a bed and it was on a Sabbath. Okay? So you can imagine you've been suffering from all manner of sins. You've had an addiction, or you've just suffered all those things, but at one point, God has been speaking to you consistently, and you felt that you need to go back to the church. So we can check this story. This man now, like walking on the Sabbath, and he meets the Jews leader. So maybe you've met your pastors, and maybe, so this man was carrying a bed, and to them, to the Jews, carrying a bed on a Sabbath was a big deal. It was like a sin. So you can imagine this is your first time maybe going to the church after so many years you've been out here. And maybe you've not dressed decently, not because you did it on purpose, but maybe it just happened that the dresses you had were not as long maybe as people might want them to be, or maybe you've just done maybe your hairstyle, maybe something. So you just come to church the first time, and the first time you come to the church. Now let's see how this guy, the first time he met the church leaders of that time. John chapter 5 verse 10, the Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, it is the Sabbath day, it's not lawful for thee to carry thy bed. So you can imagine, you've suffered all this time, and then you come to church, and the first thing people are telling you, you are dressing wrongly, or your hair is not as we like, or the way you talk, you don't talk like the way you should. And so this is your first time in church, or your first week, or your first year in church, and you've received so much, people have judged you so much, and you seem like you are heartbroken. But now, I want to tell you that even if the church leaders abandon you, even if you go to church and you feel that you are out of place, there's hope still. Christ will find you. And so in verse 14, the Bible tells us, afterward, Jesus findeth him in the temple and said unto him, behold, thou art made whole. Sin no more, lest a worse thing come unto thee. So now Christ finds you in this situation where this is your first time going to church, you are feeling like you're heartbroken. And so when everyone is abandoning you, we are told this man did not look for Jesus. It is Christ who looked out for this man. And so while you are in this state of confusion, you are feeling like you need to go home, I want to assure you that Christ is still looking out for you. So don't be discouraged when you see people in church ignoring you, or people in church looking at you, judging the way you've dressed, judging the way. I'm not saying that you should dress indecently to church, but I'm just saying that sometimes maybe we might not know if you've dressed indecently, but that should not discourage us from coming to Christ. If people talk to us badly, or if people do bad things to us, that should not be the reason why we should leave church, because Christ will always find us. And so don't go to the church, because as clearly as you've seen here, the church leaders, the Jews were judgmental. The Jews, the first thing, they didn't see this man that they had been made whole. The only thing they saw was this man carried a bed. And so maybe when you're coming to church, people don't see the fact that you've struggled, you've been out of the church for the past maybe 2 years, or the past 6 months. The only thing they see is that you've dressed indecently. But Christ tells you today that thou art made whole, and go sin no more. And so friends, as you are passing through these tragedies, as you are struggling with this, I just want to remind you of the story of Joseph Scriven, that despite the fact that he lost 2 fiancés, he still had the courage to pen the song, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. Because when he was down, when everything seemed to have collapsed, Christ found him. And so today, when you still think you're down, when you still think that you've been disappointed by the church leadership, or your parents have disappointed you, or your friends have abandoned you, I want to leave you with this hymn. What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what a peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. And so carry this. Leave this episode with one thing, that you have a friend in Jesus. May God bless you. May God keep you, and keep on tuning to our daily devotionals. We have a variety of programs. There's a segment to deal with healing. We've started a new series on healing. We're also doing podcasts that we discuss current events and how they link with biblical prophecies. And we also have songs, very beautiful songs in our channel. So may God bless you. Just remember what a friend we have in Jesus.